What's up, YouTube? It's FitzBro, and this is your guide to all things Abbasid Dynasty. I have been playing this civilization about 80 to 90% of my games this season, and I've made my way up to Conqueror 1, even Conqueror 2 as the civ, and I'm confident if you use the tips from this video, you too will climb up through the ranks. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that sub button, leave me comments below as it helps you with the beautiful algorithm, and join me in my Discord. I've got a link in the description where I've got dedicated channels which each of the civilizations broken out, so you want to strategize with other players. So let's get into one of my previous Abbasid games and talk through my Dark Age opening. So one nice thing about the Abbasid Dynasty is you can do pretty much the exact same thing every game in the Dark Age, but you've got one decision you need to make that's going to affect your play style. I almost always open with just my single scout. I do not train an additional scout. You can if you would like. I encourage it. Against Roost, you're going to want at least 2 scouts in order to deny some of those hunts from the Roost players. But as the Abbasid, if you skip that scout, that's of course going to cost 70 food and take 25 seconds to train. That's going to be 25 seconds later that you're going to be able to queue up your next villager. It's going to cost you a little bit of food, and it's going to delay your age up. And my goal is to age up as fast as humanly possible to slap down my second town center. Second town centers are a big advantage for the Abbasid because of fresh foodstuffs that they get from the economic wing. That makes your villagers cost half as much. They cost 25 food instead of 50, and that's a huge thing you can use. More villagers, more economy, you have a larger army, you can overwhelm your opponent. So every game, I start with traditionally 1 scout. Now, some players have been doing some builds where they'll go for the berries first. I don't recommend doing this. Go for the sheep. It's going to help you age up a little bit faster. Honestly, you can do some kind of berry wheelbarrow build, and I've looked at them side by side in mirrors, and it is almost like the exact same timing, like very slight differences. I encourage you to do this. It's easy. You can't mess it up. First thing you have to do is pick up the 3 sheep that are around your town center. So you got that one, this one, and this one. You have to get those sheep and turn them into your town center. You do not have to do any more drop-offs from there, because essentially from there we're going to move out to the berries. So let's let this play out here. So first thing I do is I'm going to send my scout out, grab those initial sheep, and you want to walk them back to the town center. Don't take your scout to lead them back. See that? And depending on your spawn, sometimes it's easier or harder, kind of depending on where your sheep are laid out. But do this. These are all the sheep you're going to need to start out. And one thing, I used to try to get my sheep really close to the town center. If you, in fact, get them too close to the town center, it'll make it so your villagers can't surround it all the way. And sometimes they do some awkward idling. So leave just a tad bit of space and then pull off a villager and see like this and just kill the sheep with 1 villager instead of all of them. So see how I've split my villagers up. This will help with my efficiency. So 7 villagers on food. From there, you're going to put 3 villagers onto gold. Your 4th one will build the House of Wisdom, and then that villager will also go to gold. And then from there, all your villagers will go to wood. So I'm going to speed this up. See, I'm out there scouting. Now, depending on the map, different scouting patterns, do what you like. Now, if you're someone who really likes 2 scouts, that's okay too. You can do that and do almost a very similar build to this, but just realize this is how most of my games, how I play. So I've got 2 villagers. I've built my house and my mining camp, getting my gold. Now the 4th villager will come out and they will build the House of Wisdom. And I build this House of Wisdom right here because it's going to connect all these buildings, right? Because you get this network. And if you're new to the Abbasid Dynasty, you basically build up for these golden ages. You can see there you get these different bonuses as you go through the golden ages. So you want to work towards that tier 1 golden age, connect all your structures, and this helps you do that. And you see next I'm going to put my mill, it'll be connected to my network, and you can very quickly work towards that tier 2 golden age. Okay, so now they have 4 on gold. New villagers going to go lumber camp and then all to wood. And see I've still just got 7 villagers on food. And what will happen next right here? Okay, I age up. I typically age up, by the way, about 2 minutes 30. I've gotten as fast as like 2:22 or something like that, but typically around the 2:30 mark is where you want to aim for. Practice it till you can get it to be about 2:30. If it's 2:35, it's not in the world, but around that range is where you want to be aging up. As soon as you click to age up, you always want to age up with the economic wing, by the way. You got these different options. You're always going to go economic wing to age 2, culture wing to age 3, and then military wing to age 4, with very, very little exceptions. If you want to get super cheeky and you want to try to do a map with some extra trade wing, you can, but generally this is the exact these are the H-ups you want to do. I've experimented with the other ones, and trust me, this is the optimized options. With your H-up to the economic wing, you get fresh foodstuffs. It costs 125 gold and 50 food. So you got to know that number of that gold in mind, because you're going to get exactly that amount of gold for that fresh foodstuffs, and then you're going to pull villagers off of gold. The exception being when you're playing against French, like I am in this game. When you're against French, you need to put up some defenses a little earlier on. So you're going to see me kind of build for this. And I wanted to show you a French game because it's one of the hardest sometimes early on. Okay, so since I am aged up, there we go. I've pulled 2 villagers off of my sheep there, and I've got slowed down, so you see a little bit of idle time there. But 2 villagers go from the food to the wood, and now these 5 villagers are going to go out here, and they are going to build a mill. Okay, so you see how we ate through those 3 sheep. Don't drop off extra sheep, otherwise your villagers will end up trying to gather them. You want them to go to the mill and berries next, because we're going to be getting our wheelbarrow. So there we go, dropping down my mill. All new villagers still going to wood. Okay, in the second you get your mill, look, I have enough resources. I actually could have got this just like a few seconds earlier, and you can get your wheelbarrow in nice and quick. So that wheelbarrow is going to give your villagers the additional speed, makes them move faster, going to help be good for running away from French knights and the sorts. In this game, I actually do something a little weird. I throw down some wall segments just to try to funnel the knights into a controlled area. So you'll see a little bit of variance from my normal build here. My goal for my gold is to get, now that I have the wheelbarrow, 125 gold. Now, the number for that, the gold vein will read 3,625 is that exact number of gold you need to get fresh foodstuffs and wheelbarrow. But I also want to get just that little extra gold that I'm going to need for my spearmen. Since this is against French, you have to upgrade this spearman. Okay, so I've reached next age. Look, I have the perfect amount, look, the resources, perfect amount of gold to get my fresh foodstuffs. I'm gathering just a little extra here for my spearmen. I might even over gather by here just because I'm focused on getting this set up. I set my barracks down right away. Sometimes I'll even slap like 2 villagers on these. I like to put my barracks by my wood line because they tend to like to either push your wood line or your food line with their knights. So I have this, so my spearmen can pop out right here and defend. And now that I've got the gold, I even over gathered just a little bit of gold. I've got the gold I need for my spearmen. I am moving over to the stone. Now, sometimes you get lucky and your stone spawns like right next to your food or your gold, and you can pull off from there, but sometimes you get spawns like this. This is kind of a hard scenario where you have to walk a long way to them. If you aren't playing against an early aggressing opponent, as if this was someone's gonna be super passive or maybe even an Abbasid mirror, you can actually sustain your villager production with 2 villagers on berries. But since I know I want to be training spearmen, I'm just going to keep my 5 villagers on berries right now. But typically, if I'm just going full on town center, or going even for a triple town center, I will just leave 2 villagers on berries in this situation. But here you'll see me keep them there so I can have room for my spearmen. So now I'm going to queue up my upgrade for my hardened spearmen. So I've got them upgraded by the time the knights arrive. Now, if I had macroed, you could have put maybe 1 or 2 villagers on sheep or something. I could have possibly trained a spearman first instead of doing this, but one way or the other, it's going to be okay. Okay, so now I've got villagers on stone, and I'm saving up for my second town center. That's going to cost you 400 wood and 300 stone, right? Okay, so I'm saving up for that, and I threw some extra resources on these wall segments like I said, doing something a little different here, and you want to adapt, right? If you're playing against a super aggressive opponent, you might want a few walls. Unfortunately, in this matchup, I lost my scout. You really want to keep your scout alive because you can sit there and watch and see, like, know exactly when that knight's showing up, so you can dodge it or position your spearmen at the right spot. Because I need to have spearmen guarding my stone, guard my wood line, and then guard my food, essentially, which you need at least 3 spearmen. But to be honest, against knights, you're going to want more than 1 spearman there. But 1 will be enough to make them think twice about just diving in there. Okay, so here comes this knight. Look at that. I'm able actually to get the brace on him. And at that point, okay, I know he's going to run away. Don't chase the knights, okay? This is actually what you shouldn't be doing because, right, there could be archers out here very soon. There could be all kinds of stuff going on. So you want to keep your spearmen nice and close. Now, in many cases... Okay, there you go. You see I got my 300 stone. They're going to bring archers early on, right? It's pretty common with French. So what I do here is I drop down my town center just as fast as possible, and then I switch into stable. Sometimes, if you really want to, you can go stable first, but it's going to delay your town center. So you kind of depend on your style. But I recommend just try to get that town center down. If I hadn't built this wall segment, I actually could already be dropping my town center right now. And there I'm going to have that. And I'm just going to place it here on my safe resources. So I've got food and gold back there. I think this is where I place it. Yeah. So that second town center, that additional one you're going to build, I usually build this somewhere nice and close. Also, this is part of the network. So look at this. I am very close already to my golden age. And essentially, this is the setup for your early game as Abbasid. There's a lot of things you can do from here, but in this specific matchup, I would go barracks and horsemen to kind of fight off the knights and archers, and then start to move into my own archers, mass up some archers, because typically they'll add spearmen in, and that's where this composition gets a little hairy. But in a nutshell, just to review, you do 7 villagers to sheep, 3 to gold. The 4th will build the House of Wisdom, then go to gold. Then all new villagers to wood, typically about 8 villagers to wood. Once you have clicked your age up the economic wing, you're going to pull 2 villagers off the sheep, and you're going to move them to wood. And then those 5, once they've finished with those initial 3 villagers, you're going to move them over to build a mill on the berry bush. You're going to get your wheelbarrow, get exactly 3,625 left on the gold vein, so you have enough for fresh foodstuffs, and then pull those villagers to your stone. You can pull villagers off your berries to stone if you're not going to be producing spearmen or horsemen early on like I'm doing here. Against English, I actually open and I make a stable first and run straight across the map and start to harass their longbows, get them to maybe think about being a little defensive or just get an idea of what they might be doing. Because sometimes I pivot into maybe some more military production first before I go into that second or even third town center. With your scout, you want to be active on the map, see if they're going multiple town center. In this case, it's kind of bad that I lost my scout, but it's because ideally I want to look and see, you just want to see their stone. Or is he going for a second town center? I have to match that town center. Is he going for another one? Do I need to throw down? Typically, if I see 2 town centers, I go 3 town centers in many of these matchups. But in a nutshell, this is an opening that should really set you up nicely. My goal usually is to stabilize, get my multiple town centers online, and get them basically backing off away from me. And then once I see that I kind of have enough map presence, go up to the next stage. Throw like 6 villagers on gold and get enough to go up with the culture wing, get your preservation of knowledge and transition. At that point, you can get cheaper tech. So I typically go for my ranged armor. So I'll get a blacksmith in transition. And in most matchups, I drop down a bunch of stables while I'm aging up and start spamming lancers at my enemy. But if they're going to super barracks heavy, you might not want to do that. You might want a few more maybe spearmen or man-at-arms composition, something like that. But in a nutshell, that's the Dark Age, and I think that's the hardest part typically for most civilizations. So let me know down in the comments below if you've got anything you like to do with the Abbasid Dynasty as far as the early game and have any tips. But overall, this is the build that has got me to beating top 100 players in Age of Empires 4, and I think it's going to help you out too. If you like this guide, leave me a comment and hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out with the channel. And as always, hope to see you in our next video.